I think so.
Hello, world. You're watching the 46th episode of World Humanitarian Drive's Inspiring Millions Show. This is the show where we celebrate brilliant minds from around the world who share with us their story, one story at a time. Warmest welcome to our year-end special. Ready for the holidays? Today, our featured guest is Dato Seri Leslie Lee, Executive Chairman of New Bob Group of Companies and the Home Mental Health Association. He will share his inspiring story with us in a short while. Thank you for joining us live or on replay. I'm Viva Andrada Oakland, your host and Global Media Relations of World Humanitarian Drive. World Humanitarian Drive, also known as WHD, is an international NGO founded in Croydon, UK, by British Indian global peace activist, entrepreneur, writer, Dr. Abdul Basit Saeed. The primary vision of WHD is to promote peace, education, and trade harmony initiatives globally among everyone across the world, regardless of race, gender, religion, or nationality, living as one family. WHD is striving for humanity. This Inspiring Millions show is your show. As always, we encourage you to engage and interact with us. Please help us spread inspiration to the world by sharing this link. Put your questions that you would like to ask our guest, Dato Seri Leslie Lee, or greetings or comments that you have for us in the comments box. We would love to read them later on in the show. Let us also know where you are watching this. Wherever you are in the world, let us keep you company and brighten your day as we share peace, love, and goodwill. It's our year-end special, and we still have 2 weeks left of 2021. Christmas is only in 8 days. New Year is in 15 days. While many of us are so excited about the holidays, there are some who are suffering the holiday blues. So tomorrow is also International Migrants Day. Migrants may experience depression and distress being far away from home. During the start of the year, we had high hopes for the rollout of vaccines, but infection spread is even more so than ever before. With the added impact of the pandemic, families and friends forced apart, loss of jobs, closure of businesses, natural disasters, there are those of us that are exhausted physically, mentally, and emotionally. For us to develop our resilience and gain a better outlook on the year ahead, we have with us Dato Seri Leslie Lee. Dato Seri Leslie Lee is the founder and executive chairman of New Bob Group of Companies. Throughout the years, Dato Leslie has contributed his time and financially to various professional associations and charitable organizations. Dato Leslie Lee is also the founder of The Home, a non-government organization founded in 2004 that he fully finances and supports. Let us all welcome a champion of mental health in Malaysia, Dato Seri Leslie Lee. Salamat datang, terima kasih. Welcome and thank you for being here. How are you today, Dato Seri Leslie Lee?
Very good evening to you, Viva. Thank you very much for having me. I'm fine over here and wish the same is for you. As you say, Christmas is just around the corner. So a Merry Christmas to you and to everyone all over the world that is watching. A very good afternoon, a very good evening. And also soon a Happy New Year. So firstly, I would like to give thanks to WHD, World Humanitarian Drive, the founder, Dr. Abdul Basit Saeed, as well as to the Secretary General of World Humanitarian Drive in Malaysia, Professor Dr. Doraisamy, and to you, Ms. Viva, as well as your supporting colleague, that is Vivian Wilson. Yes, thanks to her as well. I'm good, thank you, and wish the same is for you as well, Viva.
Yes, and we would also like to thank WHD Secretary General of Malaysia, as you've mentioned, Professor Dato Dr. GP Doraisamy, for arranging this discussion. So let's get started, Dato Seri Leslie Lee. So could you please tell us briefly of yourself and share with us something about your childhood?
Yeah, when you mention about success story, I think in a way I will look at the childhood success is been having the opportunity of being born into a very challenging and interesting family, especially been where my parents have 10 children and I'm the last shot, so to speak. And so happened, those days was the baby boom period. By current day standards, I shouldn't be around because no family will have 10, or rather very, very rarely, any family will have 10 children. And I shouldn't be around being the last one. So that gave me a special privilege being the last of 10 to see the 9 siblings who are all older than me, above me, and having been able to witness, firsthand how the poverty-stricken family, where we have gone through days where there's no food on the table, and where you go hungry, and where you're able to have just the rice, just the white rice to pull through the day. So perhaps I would probably bring us back to how did my parents got into here. So I have to mention my grandparents from China who migrated to Malaysia in Penang, where he finally landed as a migrant, and bringing together with them my father, who was then 11 years old, to seek better fortune, as what is the norm then at that point in time. As you know, 1921, China will be having quite a lot of sufferings over there. So we can equate to, like right now in Malaysia, where we are having migrant workers from Indonesia, from Philippines, or from Myanmar, who comes to Malaysia to work. So the equivalent of the present status from these people from this country, we can relate that to the migrants like my grandfather who brought my father down here in 1921. So unfortunately, my grandparents, they got into the trade of selling what is firewood. And those days, a fuel is not fuel in the families, is not electricity, is not kerosene, is not gas, firewood. Firewood is used as fuel in everything, to boil water, to iron the clothes, And I had the opportunity of going through such an environment. And I have also, because of seeing that my parents are in this trade, as well as my siblings, they also end up in this trade, from my grandparents to my parents to my siblings. So I have to start work at the age of 9, chopping firewood, handling firewood. So it's a tough and rough. So to the extent that, the skin of your hands get roughened up. And it is indeed, looking back, it's indeed very interesting indeed to have been able to go through such things. And then subsequently, I realized that, is it that my parents are not hardworking? It is not so. My siblings, are they not hardworking? They are not so. They are all working very hard. But I realized right at this young age that it is because they are in the wrong trade. So it is because of the trade that no matter how hard you work, and because my parents have 10 children, it is not a question of how hard you work, but because you're in the wrong business, you're in the wrong job, wrong patient. So what my parents earn is not enough to feed 10 children. So this is something in which I personally, I would call it now, having the luxury of going through such experience, and looking back is actually a blessing in disguise. So currently, I am married with my wife of 45 years, and we have 3 children and 3 grandchildren. Our eldest grandchild, our eldest granddaughter, she's now coming to 13 years old. So the other is 9, and the third one is 7. So we have wonderful 3 children and 3 grandchildren. Yep, and over to you, Viva.
Yes, Dato Seri Leslie Lee. It's a very humbling start in life, what you've shared. Could you share with us how was life growing up as the youngest of 10 children?
Okay, I can remember vividly, the sufferings in terms of meeting the basic needs and in terms of like going to school. You hardly had any money, so I have to be dependent upon support. Like in schools, they have for very poor students, they have free milk to be given during the recess time. And hearing my parents always saying that, two parents can support 10 children, but 10 children cannot support two parents. So these are something that has imparted on me. And when I heard things like that, what I have told myself inside quietly is that wait for me to be able to work. And one of the things, definitely, if I go to work, I would not be working in this selling of this firewood. I would like to acquire knowledge. I would like to learn things as much as possible. And as a result, which, because of that childhood background, I become a very inquisitive person. I become a person that is always interested in asking questions, in getting answers to things that I don't understand. So then over and above that, I also got the benefit of coming across an elder sister that is biologically, mentally not well. So this becomes an added challenge. And when I was 14 years old, my older brother of 24 years, who is 10 years older than me, suffered mental illness. So it is like you have been poor, you're in a poverty-stricken family, and all of a sudden another impact hit the family in that all of a sudden my older brother, who was working then as a postman, he suffered mental illness. And it is a world where you don't see light at the end of the tunnel, where tomorrow is going to be a difficult day to pass through. And whereby over and above that, sometimes you had neighbors or you have people that will ridicule, calling your brother mad and saying things that are unempathetic, uncalled for, rather than empathize with the sufferings of someone who is mentally challenged like my brother. So as a result, which when those things are said, it really hurts you, And I grew up coming across people who has got mental issues. I never call them mad. I just call them that they are mentally challenged, and especially knowing that mental illness is something that is treatable and curable. So that experience of mine growing up in that sort of a difficult environment with the shadow of seeing how my sister, who is biologically, mentally not well, and she is stunted. That means she is just around about, physically around about 4 feet tall. And as a person, I'm actually a 6-footer. So, and her brain is not mentally matured. So although she is old, she has never gone through puberty. So size-wise, she's like that of a young girl, and mentally, she's that of a person that is not normal. So this is something in which I would say that having the unfortunate situation of having them give me the inspiration and the drive to say that, well, I would like to look forward when I'm capable, I grow up, I'm capable and able, I would like to do something to help them, and subsequently to be able to do something in such areas. And this is where is another story. That's how our The Home was. That's how The Home was founded, because it comes up from that childhood aspiration of doing something in this area to help others. So that's how I have grew up to have such passions as well. Right, Viva?
Yes, Dato Seri Leslie Lee. So you were born into a poverty stricken family of 10 children, and you were the youngest, and then you've had some challenges that you've had to undergo. And then, so could you also share about your academic studies and working career as well?
Yes. So coming from a poor family, yes, I realized that one of the way of making the difference is to acquire knowledge and academically wise to excel as high as possible. And I have to say, because my other siblings, they basically have primary school education. So primary school education means like over here in Malaysia, it means like you started school at the age of 7, you go through 6 years of primary school education. And save and except for one who had the opportunity of going to secondary school, the rest of them are just primary school based. So one of the things I realized that I have to pursue my education to acquire knowledge. So for myself personally, I went to primary school, then 5 years of secondary school, and 2 years of 2 years of upper secondary. That's what we call Form 6 over here. And it saddened me that I realized because we are so poor, I realized my siblings, my parents would not be able to support me to go to university. So after the Form 6, I got the first opportunity to work in a casino, the first casino that is set up in Malaysia. It is off Kuala Lumpur, around about 1.5 hours drive. It's at the highlands called Genting Highlands. And I'm among one of the first batch to work in that casino as a casino croupier. So I worked there for around about 6 months, working overtime. And the time when I started working, in a way, more than half of what I earn is used to support my parents and indirectly helping out my siblings. And so I worked there, and I realized at that point in time that working in the casino may not be a stable future in the long term. So I started looking for jobs while I was working down there within this 6 months period. So one day I saw an advertisement in the paper calling for officer cadet, that is the Malaysian Armed Forces. So I cut out that paper, and I have to go to work. And after working, I returned back. I applied for the job. And once I finished my application, I turned over what I have cut. And fortune had it as such that exactly on the other side of the paper, of the newspaper that I have cut on this advertisement, exactly on the reverse side is an advertisement calling for navigating officer cadet course in Hong Kong. So I said, well, this is not bad to be a navigating officer. Definitely, I know I will ultimately become the captain of a ship, and this will be a better future than compared to a croupier, because this is the only casino in Malaysia. And gambling is something that is sensitive to certain religion. So some religion is calling that, that this is what is called haram, which is not permissible by certain religion. So I felt insecure because I don't want to myself, I say I don't want to be in, when I grew up to be about 40-something years of age or 50 years of age and having a wife and having many children, and then this casino has to be closed down, then I can't sort of have the energy and resource of that youth anymore to be looking for alternative career. So this is where then that drove me to apply for these 2 applications. And good and behold, the second application responded to me earlier. So the second application responded to me earlier. I have to travel down to Kuala Lumpur, attend the interview, attend the aptitude test. And thank God, I succeeded in getting this scholarship to go to Hong Kong Polytechnic University to study this navigational course. So it is, to me, it's a beginning of the change of my career from a casino, which is facing, to me at that point in time, an uncertain future, to something that is stable, that I know my course will lead me to cadet, and then after that, a fourth, third officer, second officer, chief officer, and ultimately be a captain of a ship. So there I went from Penang, which is still quite backward at that point in time, to Hong Kong in early 70s, and seeing how vibrant Hong Kong is. The city never sleeps. It is a cultural shock to me, and see how the Hong Kong people, they work and they slot and they achieve success and wealth. So there is a very interesting, very eye-opening for me during my studies at the Hong Kong Polytechnic. And after the study, I was posted on a ship that took me from Singapore to Australia, carrying the Australian migrants who need only to pay £2. That's what I heard from the passenger. They only need to pay £2 for them. The Australian government will fly them from London down to Singapore. From Singapore, our ship will fetch them. And from Singapore, we will travel 7 days on our ship to reach Fremantle, that is in Western Australia. And the only condition that is required of them is that they have to stay there for 2 years. So they pay £2, flight, ship accommodation, and when they arrive in Australia, accommodation will be given to them, employment will be given to them, and they only need to stay there for 2 years. And at the end of the 2 years, if they decide that they don't like it in Australia, then they can return back without facing any penalty, so to speak. So that time, I have to say, Australia is under what we call the white Australian policy. That means Australia is opening itself to migration from Europeans only, not to people of other nationalities like Asian. So however, subsequently, this policy changed, the white Australian policy changed. And so it opens myself up to a new world. And at that point in time, I see that, wow, there is no poor people in Australia as compared to what we have seen here in Penang, in Malaysia. Jobs at that point in time are difficult to come by. So my next trip, I was posted as an officer to carry the pilgrims from Malaysia, that is fetching the pilgrims, 3,500 pilgrims from Kota Kinabalu, that is in Sabah, the East Malaysia, Kuching, which is also in East Malaysia, from Singapore, from Pok Klang, and from Penang. So I used to be carrying these 3,500 pilgrims from Malaysia and Singapore right to Jeddah. So it's again another cultural difference, another cultural shock from what I saw in Jeddah in Saudi Arabia, where water is at that point in time, 1970s, not easy to come by. So in inverted comma, I was told the captain has to bribe the waterman because in order to increase the pressure of the water so that there'll be enough water to be replenished when we arrive in Saudi Arabia. If not, the ship will have to travel to French Somaliland, that is Djibouti. So if not, we have to go, the ship will have to replenish water from Jeddah to travel around about a day trip to Djibouti just to get water and then to return back to fetch the pilgrims back to Malaysia. So quite a lot of interesting things. And at times we stopped by over at Aden, and we saw that Aden is such an impoverished, is such a poor country. When the ship arrived there, there'll be people coming on board asking for things, soap or other basic necessities. So it is a good eye opener, I must say, and in terms of my career. And I must say that because of the childhood, I have to add, because of the childhood, I also realized at that young time, like being in the right trade or being in the right career is something which is very, very important. So as I was traveling on board the ship, it has given me opportunity because on board the ship, we work 7 days a week. We work like about 12 hours a day. The ship never stops when we are on sail. So when we are on sail, like from Penang, we leave to Jeddah, it will be about an 11 days journey. And we used to pass by the island called Samoa, which subsequently, about 10 years ago, we read that there's a lot of African pirates over there. So those days it was quite peaceful. So being in the ship career has given me the chance of experiencing what is the meaning of hard work, working 7 days a week. And especially when we are junior officer, we got to learn as per the tradition, we have to go through the rank and file. So I have got to go through part of my training with the seaman, with the carpenter, with the electrician, with the engineer, and then ultimately it is with the qualified navigating officers. So that experience is something which is very beneficial towards my life later on, because before the whole tradition is that before you become the captain of a ship, you must go through every nick and corner of the ship, every trade of the ship, so that you know each and every of your crew, what are they involved in. And ultimately, only you'll become the captain of a ship. So, which is a good procedure from precedence, I must say. So, and then also, during the time on board the ship has given me the opportunity to, look at, what would be a good trade. Then that's where I read about Alan Bond of Australia, who is involved in real estate. And at the same time, I've also read about Donald Trump. As you know, Donald Trump, he was the previous president of America. And at that point in time, when I was in my early 20s, I read about them, how they make their money in real estate. So perhaps then in terms of being in real estate side, I realized that that will be something that will be challenging, yeah. And perhaps I will relate the aspects on that on real estate, how the opportunity come around. So I must also relate that when I was in school, there was an American Peace Corps teacher. Her name is Nancy Adams, and she was my form teacher when I was in Form 4. So like what I mentioned earlier, I realized that I have to acquire knowledge. So I became a very inquisitive person. So she wrote on a farewell note to me, continue to search for answers. I'm very inspired by your inquisitiveness. Always be a leader, not a follower. So those parting words of hers in the farewell that we're given her has imprinted and has sort of been part of my, part of the traits that I realized it is very important. So I think that is what I would share, perhaps in terms of the other part, that how do I get into real estate? Would you want me to continue on that?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I realized that real estate is something that is challenging and is very rewarding. And generally people who get themselves involved in real estate, particularly in development, they generally do not turn into a pauper. They generally succeeded, and when they succeed by quite an extent, depending upon sort of how big a development that they get into. And I read books on Alan Bond, who subsequently in Australia started the Bond University in Perth, and then about this Donald Trump, who made his millions in America, in New York. So say that is an area that I would like to get into. So one fine day, while I was back on holiday, visiting a relative, and then this relative of mine who was involved in this real estate business subsequently related to me that she is giving up the business. So the immediate thing clicked in my mind, why not? me. This is the opportunity. So once again, I must say something that I've learned when I was young is that opportunity doesn't knock at your door and telling you that this is opportunity. Opportunity is up to us to be able to see it, to be able to evaluate, to be able to catch it. Yeah. So when that happens, and well, there is an opening for real estate business for me to get into. Immediately, I seized upon it. And against all odds of persuasion by my mother, say, don't. It's very challenging because I could understand where my mother is coming from. Because since I started the career, more than half of what I earn is supporting her. And I would say that at that point in time, 1974, when I'm earning around about 2,000 ringgit goes to her. And at that point in time, 2,000 ringgit is quite a large, quite a substantial amount of money. So I would say that the fortune or the poverty of our family, things turned over the moment I started working. So of course, she would not want to take the risk and try to dissuade me from changing my career into the real estate line. But being as what I am, I realize what I'm going to go into, and I'm prepared to take the plunge. So against her dissuasion from me, I plunged in with my eyes open. I told myself, failure is not an option. I will work hard. I will work 7 days, like what I did on board the ship. I will work for more hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, 14 hours, where there's a need, where there's opportunity for me to work long hours, I will work. So where other people are resting over the weekend, I will work to catch up, because I would like to change the poverty situation of what our family is facing. And over and above that, I would like to help my other siblings, that is my other brothers, my other sisters, my mentally challenged sister, my mentally challenged brother, as well as my mother, because at that point in time, my father passed away when I was still in school. So when I was still in school, when my father passed away, I wept and I told him, Daddy, I give you a pledge. I have been deprived of this opportunity of doing something for you, but I will pledge that I will do what it may to do everything possible for my mother and to help out in the other siblings. So this is what I told him at his deathbed when I was 17 years old when he passed on. And so then, not looking back, we worked. And also at that point in time, I also found my girlfriend, who ultimately turned into my wife. At that point in time, when just before I plunged into this real estate business. And I must also confess that when I'm sailing on board the ship, we fell in love. And when I'm on board the ship, we don't have a chance to meet. And it will have to be, like 1 or 2 months before we had a chance to meet. And like at times when even my ship arrived in Penang, I do not even got a chance to meet her. So it's very hurting because the ship comes in for a few hours, pick up the passenger and off we go, and I still have to be on duty on board. And so that I must confess is also the other attraction, that once I change this career on shore, I could be spending more time with my girlfriend then, which I ultimately married. And like what I mentioned to you earlier, we have been married for 45 years. So in terms of a marriage life, perhaps I can also share something on terms of the marriage life of what we have sort of encountered as a husband and wife together. Yeah. So over to you, Viva. Any other questions that you would like to ask me?
Yes, Dato Seri Leslie Lee. So You've also proven that education gives opportunities and possibly a better future. So being hardworking and having the right career can help. So is there anyone that you know personally who inspired you to pursue the field that you're in?
Oh, yeah. There are quite a number. I'm always very inspired with outstanding personalities, outstanding successful people. Like earlier on, I mentioned about Ellen Bond and Donald Trump. I'm also very impressed, I must say, with, like, for example, the first Prime Minister of Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew, who has, against all odds, achieved unity, harmony, progressive, stable, peaceful, respectable country for Singapore, from a third world to a developed first world country. He impresses me a lot. And I read a lot of the things that what are the virtues that he has got? What are the traits that he has got? And likewise, the other outstanding personalities that has impressed me is like Mother Teresa. So Mother Teresa, wow, I have to salute her, because against all odds, she single-handedly, with determination, dedication, and commitment, reached out to the poor, needy, marginalized, and the deprived people. So I'm very, very impressed with such sort of personality traits. So likewise, the other person that has impressed me is Mahatma Gandhi. Against all odds, he went on the non-violence trade for India's independence through mass non-violence civil disobedience. So these are fantastic traits. And so it is Nelson Mandela. When our ship went into Djibouti, which I mentioned earlier, in French Somaliland, we have witnessed firsthand apartheid, because at that point in time, in 1970s, when we visited Djibouti, is still under France, is still a French colony, and apartheid is also practiced in Somalia. So not only in South Africa. So I saw firsthand. So Nelson Mandela, which is somebody that I knew in my lifetime, I don't have the chance of actually knowing something like Mahatma Gandhi, because he was shot dead in 1948, before I was born. By the way, I was born in 1952. So during my lifetime, I have a chance of seeing like Lee Kuan Yew, then Nelson Mandela, who also against all odds and decades of suffering in prison, with humiliation and perseverance and determination, overcome apartheid and independence for South Africa. And the most other not outstanding traits of him is that he is not vindictive. He forgives those people who has wronged him. And this is indeed a very strong trait of a person. So I must also say over here and confess that I'm also amazed by Mao Zedong, because against all odds, when China was under imperialism, being humiliated by all the foreign powers, he is able to overcome and drove all these imperialists out of the country and achieve unity for the whole of China. So it takes a person, you are so weak, you are so downtrodden, and yet you are able to, with good leadership, overcome the stronger foreign imperialists, yeah, or the foreign colonialists. And I'm also impressed with this Deng Xiaoping for his pragmatism, his practicability in terms of having the foresight to open up the huge poor market of China to make China what it is today into a very progressive, where they have overcome poverty in changing few hundred millions of its people from abject poverty. So it is going to be soon the largest economy of the world. There is no issues that it would be. And I would say that I shared certain similarity with what China is striving for, because when you have been poor, when you are downtrodden, when you are humiliated, it gives you the drive and the determination. So I do believe that the drive and determination will be there by the Chinese people in China, and they will strive to overcome the humiliation that they have suffered. So then I also must say, I must also am impressed with Abraham Lincoln, because against all odds, he abolished slavery, which is not an easy thing. He got to fight the Civil War, and in restoring basic human rights and dignity to human beings who are brought in as slaves. So he won my accolade and my respect. And these are exceptional people, yeah. And then somebody nearby, which I have personally encountered, is a relative. I must mention about him because he had shared with me his story that at the age of 4 years, he started working. He started working like sending goods, pushing carts. Those days, the carts are not pulled by bull, are pulled by human. And he will be the 4 years old boy pushing the carts. And he shared with me, he has gone through all sorts of trades. And ultimately, he landed into real estate. And because he landed into real estate, he became one of the most successful realtors in Penang. At the age of 39, he had the biggest realty company in Penang. Unfortunately, he passed away of heart attack at that age of 39. So this is where I learned from him how he is able to make friends easily. He's sharp enough, notwithstanding that he didn't go to school, colleges or university. He's sharp enough to understand the needs and be able to match the needs of the owners, the needs of the market, and supplying those needs to what the market or what the people require. So those days, he would match, for example, the buyers and the sellers, right? And he would earn quite a lot of money, and he works very hard. He entertains very hard. And I'm very impressed with him because notwithstanding that he didn't go to school, and I have heard him in action when he speaks. He speaks like a British or like an Australian. So he has acquired the language. And if you're next to him and you don't look at him, you would think that he's a British and Australian that is speaking English. However, since he didn't go to school, he cannot read and he cannot write. So that is his handicap. But he understands the needs of these foreigners then. And at that point in time, Penang has got a large British and Australian Air Force presence of around about 10,000 people. So he attends to their needs in terms of getting accommodation for them. At that point in time, the Australian and the British, they have an air base in the other part of Penang Island called Seberang Perai, which is called Batuah. So it used to be called the Royal Australian Air Force Base Batuah at that point in time. And which now I understand Australia used that air base in terms of helping in the defense of their country, especially after they have got the scares from the Second World War being attacked by the Japanese. So this is another example which actually fortified me that if a person who hasn't gone to school, who hasn't gone to college, and who hasn't gone to university can succeed in real estate, so why can't I? So I have the benefit of being able to read, being able to write, and I understand the traits that you have to make friends, minimize and then make no enemies, see to the needs, identify opportunities, yeah. But the one thing I must also confess that I have learned from him is that he died early. So I realized that one of the things he has achieved success at the detriment of his health. And I can't blame him because he didn't go to school. He doesn't understand, like he was a diabetic. So he still smoked heavily. He hasn't changed his lifestyle. He still drink heavily because he needs to entertain all his the business people. He needs to entertain them a lot, almost every night. And as a result, which over a short period of 10 years, although he has achieved success in having something like about 10 properties, 10 landed properties, which is by and large very substantial achievement, but he died of heart attack. So that means he has achieved success, wealth, at the expense of his life, sad to say. So this is something which I learned, and this is something which I sort of realized that money is secondary, health is primary. There's no point if you have a lot of money and at the detriment of your health. So health should come first. And I must say, in that aspect, health means mental health. Between mental health and physical health, although physical health is important, mental health is paramount because mental health is the basic foundation of a person's well-being. Yeah. Am I speaking too much?
So you've mentioned that health should come before wealth, and you're also an inspiration to many since you've received so many accolades, and then you're also involved in so many organizations, helping them out, Dato Seri Leslie Lee. So could you also share what is your most passionate community project and why?
Right. So because of my personal experience that what I mentioned earlier, I saw basically the trauma, the sufferings firsthand of the family, where there is no light at the end of the tunnel, where there's no tomorrow. You don't look forward towards tomorrow because it is suffering day in, day out. And because of my parents' lack of knowledge, my elder brother, who suffered from schizophrenia, has relapses after relapses. And which I know that once a person who is mentally ill, if he suffers relapses, every relapses may retardate the brain. And this retardation and this damage to the brain cells is irreversible. And I saw how his life is being destroyed because due to the numerous relapses that he has encountered. And I realized that if I can do something to make a difference in the lives of other people, if they should encounter, any of their loved ones should encounter mental illness, I can do something to help them. They do not need to go through the suffering, the dark tunnel of what our family has gone through. So sadly, in the education system in our country, in Malaysia right now, there is no curriculum that teach people about the importance of mental health. During those days when we were in school, we were taught about hygiene. Yes, we were taught about physics, biology, but we were not taught about a curriculum like mental health, mental resilience. So personally, I strongly advocated that this should be taught in school because mental health is a very, very important issue. So as a result of which, I set up the organization called the Home Mental Health Organization. D happens to be the name of my wife, Doris, but D, when we set it up, it means for when you are depressed, when you are down, when you're disparaged, and it stands for all you're disappointed, it stands for all the negativity. D, home. Home is a home for you, and it's the hope and meaning in life that we are embarking on. It gives people the hope and the meaning in life. So fortunately, when I, around about early 2000, I managed to come across Professor lecturer. Her name is Leela Ryan. Yeah, she's a Malaysian Indian who actually stay in Ireland, married to an Irishman. And she was a professor lecturing at the Penang Medical College then, where my son is a medical student. I met her and I shared with her my idea that I would like to start this association to help people in this area. Immediately, she agreed with me, and we gathered a few other people, a few other psychiatrists, counselors, and community workers. Then the home was born. So the home was born. Our founding philosophy is to help people free of charge. And looking back over the last 18 years, everything we do is free of charge, including like clinical counseling. The home pay for it. So after trying around about for 4 to 5 years, initially everything is footed because premises is provided by my wife and myself free of charge. And we have our supporting staff to ensure that the association is able to pull through. And after 4 or 5 years, my wife told me, hey, why won't you share this idea out with other people in the community and get them to come in as a joint effort? So, well, that sounds sensible to me. So the first person I actually went to visit to share what we have been doing is an executive officer. Her name is Dr. Mary Kwa of Lo Guan Lai Hospital. She is the CEO of that private hospital. I shared with her what we have done through presentations and slides and our activities, our counseling, our mental health courses that is being carried out. And then she stopped me after around about 15 minutes. She said, I would like to ask you 3 questions. 1, who started this organization? 2, why do you start it? 3, how much do you want? So it's very simple. I answer her. I'm the one who started it. And the reasons, as what I explained earlier, why I started it, because I see there is a niche market. There is a niche market because we know that out of every 4 person in the world, irrespective what profession you are in, what race, what culture, what religion you are in, 1 in every 4 person will suffer some form of mental health problems in their lifetime. And 1 in every 4 families will have someone in their family suffering from severe mental illness. So, which means that there is a huge market out there of people in need. And the education curriculum did not share about the importance of what to do to be mentally resilient, so that, and then what to do if there are early signs and symptoms of someone suffering from mental illness. There are signs and symptoms. You know, before there's a fire, you have the smoke. So likewise for people with mental illness, before it is full blown, you have certain signs and symptoms showing. And it is best if they are arrested early, the fire would not start. Yeah, if they would not go into the full episode, then their chances of recovery will be shorter and will be better, the prognosis will be brighter. So, and the other important thing is how to prevent them instead of doing supportive, how to do preventive. So that's where we embark on. So back onto the story of the first person that I have spoken to. It's quite easy for me to answer. And the question about the figure is, can we get 30,000 from you? Without any hesitation, it's so spontaneous. Say, yes, I will give it to you, to your organization. And over and above that, she called the hospital psychiatrist to come down to her office, introduce the psychiatrist to us, to me, and to another colleague of mine from the home, and he told the psychiatrist, if the home wants any support in any way, help them. After that, he called the human resources personnel. 3 of the human resources personnel comes in and said, and she told them the same thing. If the home would like to have any support or any assistance in any way, including like they want to loan our lecture theater, because the lecture theater can accommodate around about 300 people. That time, the home we conducted courses is just able to sit around about 35 or 40 people. So loan them our lecture theater, and everything is free of charge. So that first experience is indeed very inspiring, that people, the moment they know that you are doing something sincere, something right, something good for the community, they are prepared to participate, to join in as your partner to help out. So that was the beginning of our getting participation from members of the public. So however, as we go along, we do see that, there are quite a lot of areas. We still reach the tip of the iceberg, and there's still a lot of areas that needs to be done. So over the years, our membership has gone over the 1,500 members now. So we are trying to hit 2,000 by next year, and our membership is free of charge. And since the year I formed the association, every year we have elections, and I'm still the president of the Home Mental Health Association right until now. And I'm prepared to sort of step aside and be advisor so that other more resourceful or energetic people can take it to newer heights, So then I have personally also come across many cases that I personally helped in terms of the moment I heard that they are suffering from mental illness. So I do personally gone in to help them and lend a hand and support them as much as possible, so that in my belief that, prayerfully, they'll be able to recover and they'll be able to lead a normal life. So a life could be saved. And as you know, if a life like my brother, who is not saved and destroyed, the economic impact on not only the person, the destruction to the person, but also to the family and to the community, to the state and to the country is quite substantial. So once a person is destroyed, like my brother's case, it is very fortunate for him because he has got a brother to take care of him. If not, the government would be subsidizing a few $100s a month. And I have to say that right until now, my brother do not fall upon the government for this subsidy, so that this subsidy can be given to other people. And God has blessed me with the capability of not requiring the subsidy from the government. So we haven't sort of taken a single cent from the government side up to now. Yeah. So yeah, that I hope I've given you some insight, Viva.
Thank you, Dato Seri Leslie Lee. So we want to know how to save a life. So what are the signs and symptoms of mental illness? What should we be aware of?
Yeah. Well, generally, family members are the closest people to a member of their family. And the moment they detected that there are change in behavior, change in character, for example, where the person used to socialize now refuses to socialize, where the person used to, engage in sporting events now wish to just confine himself, and more particularly, the person become an introvert, and the person may be easily irritated, yeah, and the person may be always trying to find, it's totally a change of character, where the person all of a sudden become very disrespectful of other people, yeah. So, etc. Instances of this where the person's character change, yeah, and the person may be starting to talk by himself, yeah. The person start getting disinterested over usual things where the person is interested, doesn't want to talk to friends anymore. So these are signs and symptoms. And like, for example, school-going student, where they usually are very responsible, then all of a sudden the student becomes not so responsible, not passing up the homework, coming to school late, yeah, or being absent from school. So we have shared with the schools that the counselors, the school counselors, it's very important for them to be trained in understanding and picking up these early signs and symptoms of mental illness. So that if any of the students have shown such signs, they should be supporting them. They should be supporting them with correct counseling and getting the correct professional treatment rather than reprimanding them and punishing them. So until and unless the school counselors are trained to understand such areas as mental health issues, unfortunately, students who show early signs and symptoms of mental health, mental illness, are being penalized, are being reprimanded, are being scolded, are being called by all sorts of names that will actually push them down further. Yeah. All right, Viva.
Okay, thank you so much, Dato Seri Leslie Lee. I'll just take this moment to greet our virtual audience. They also have some questions for you. So I can see there's Elizabeth Berkasha, Billy Tang, and then there's also Win, there's Happy, there's Ratan Namala Raman. Oh, we have a question from Tongi Gra. His question is, mental challenges are curable, but how to do when the person suffering from those refuses help and does accept or recognize that he or she has mental challenges? Okay, I'm just going to read more messages from our virtual audience. We've got Professor Dato Dr. GP Doraisamy. He's saying, Dato Seri Leslie, I really admire your activism and social work, especially in mental health related issues. The public have negative thoughts and attitudes towards mental health patients and families. And Primadoy Dev Shama is saying, good session. And then, so we're just waiting for, okay, and then Mandy Lee is saying, great sharing. So how's everyone? Are you enjoying this talk? Could you please post your comments below as well? And so we're just going to be waiting for Professor Dato. Oh, for Dato Seri Leslie Lee. Uh-oh. Okay, so Tongi Gra has 2 questions. And then, so we're just going to wait for Dato Seri Leslie Lee. Okay. Okay, so, well, this is really interesting, the conversation we've been hearing with Dato Seri Leslie Lee. I think he just got disconnected for a bit, so let's just wait for him to come back. So this is really interesting. Okay, so I guess we have to cut our interview short for today. So, oh.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I'm
You're back. All right,
Yeah,
thank you
yeah.
so much. Thank you, thank you. Is it okay if we answer some questions?
Right.
Yes,
Yeah,
sorry.
just now I lost you and
Yeah, thank you so much for coming back.
yeah.
Okay, so Tongigra has a question. Mental challenges are curable, but what to do when the person suffering from those refuses help and does not accept or recognize that he or she has mental challenges? Could you please turn your camera on? Thank you. So what should we do when the person who is having mental health challenges doesn't want to admit that he or she is suffering from mental challenges?
Yeah, so we do have people who are having mental illness, mental challenges, and certain section of the people, say around about from my experience, around about 60–65% of them recognize, they realize that something is not right with them and they need help. So those would not have any issues, but about 35–40% of them do not accept that they are not well. And when you tell them that they are not well and that they need professional help, they may turn around and say, you are the one who is not well. So you should be the one who go for professional treatment. So you have to approach them differently. Like, for example, you may have to arrange for certain treatment. Let me give you one example. In fact, just around about 1 week back, I do come across a 14-year-old girl which had diagnosed for bipolar and depression. Then when I started talking to her, I empathized her because when I met her, that is just around about 2 weeks back, she's just 14 years old and something must be done to help her. If not, I would hate to see that, years, decades down the road and her life is been destroyed. So I engaged her in the conversation and she's open immediately to share with me. So subsequently, the grandmother is the one that took her to our association. I had a talk with the grandmother. The grandmother also opened up everything with me. And I talked to the father. The father also opened up everything with me. And they shared that she has been abused by her very own mother right from young. So I immediately has got the sixth sense that perhaps the mother needs some treatment. So when I talk over with the grandmother and the father, it gave me the picture because the father herself told me that his wife is very, very depressed, and right from shared with me the history of the wife vis-a-vis the relationship with the daughter. And what he told me is that, like, right from the point of conceiving this, the second daughter, the eldest one is about 9 years age difference, which is older. She doesn't want to have the child. And the father is the one who actually pursued her and finally got her to agree to have the child. And she says that right from that time, she doesn't want to have the child. So when the child was born, the love and the affection between her and the child is not there. So subsequently, the father told me also she suspected that the wife is undergoing through depression. And then I told her that she needs to be treated professionally by bringing her to see professional psychiatrists, and then if need be, psychologists for counseling. But the father told me she refused because she doesn't accept that she is something wrong, that she is not well. So then I share with the father, perhaps bring your daughter along and ask her to come in, pre-arrange with the psychiatrist in advance that you are actually give the psychiatrist some background knowledge about in what way you felt that your wife is a very depressed woman over the years, and which has resulted in her abusing her very own daughter. So pre-arrange that, and we had to go indirectly, like in this case, bringing her and the daughter to see the doctor. So officially is is going to seek treatment for the daughter, but indirectly is also getting the professional help to, to assess her, to evaluate her. So at times this could be engaged way, and if you happen to know about any of the psychiatrists or counselors that are sort of closer to you, you can arrange in sort of friendlier setting. Like for example, in a very casual chat, not in terms of officially that she is going to see a psychiatrist or he or she is going to see a psychiatrist, It is a casual chat sort of thing. And I have managed to have psychiatrists who are very helpful. I will arrange for sort of a lunch setting sort of things with the family members, but the actual purpose is for the psychiatrist to assess and then ultimately breaking through the ice and getting the person who refused professional treatment and rationalizing with them later by the professionals. Yeah. So this certain percentage of people who are under what we call self-denial, yeah. So they have to be addressed differently. And so look into some friendly psychiatrists in terms of which will be helpful to go into not sort of the normal conventional way. So I have to say that sometimes the taboo and the stigma in current settings is such that people who are mentally not well, if they were to be seen outside a psychiatrist clinic, it is of tremendous embarrassment to them. So it is quite deterring because they will be afraid that any people will be seeing them just outside a psychiatrist clinic. That means something is wrong. So we have to share also information like it is quite normal. 1 in every 3-4 person will have some form of mental challenges, and actually this treatment is to help us to get better. So educating in terms of this direction. Viva?
Yes. So I'm going to read more comments from our virtual audience. From Adoy Dev Sharma saying, good session. Dato Ang Bon Beng is saying, you are right, health is above everything. Mandy Lee is saying, great sharing. And also Professor Dato Dr. G.P. Doraisamy is saying, Dato Seri Leslie, I really admire your activism and social work, especially in mental health related issues. The public have negative thoughts and attitudes towards mental health patients and families, as what you've mentioned earlier. So his question is, how and what are the ways to eradicate and or bring about changes of people's thoughts and mindset in dealing with these negative feelings and thoughts?
Personally, I have come across people who have ridiculed other families with mental illness and subsequently have one of their loved ones suffering mental illness years down the road. So we do share with people that actually mental illness is something which is very common. So education is very important, like what I mentioned. 1 in every 3-4 person will have some form of mental health issues. So education to destigmatize that if you are having something wrong, it is all right to be something, to have some mental challenge issues. It's all right. So the main thing is seek help. Know where to seek help. And the person who is listening to whatever issues that they may have that they need to mention or about their challenges should not be judgmental. Yeah, should be empathetic. So this comes back to education. Education is very important. So when we share in terms of education to the public, that it can hit any one of us. 1 in 3-4 person will suffer through some form of mental health issues in a lifetime. 1 in every 3 to 4 families will have someone within their family suffering from severe mental illness. So in a population of 1 million, And if we say a family of 5 persons, so 5 persons in a million, you will have 20,000 people suffering from severe mental illness. If you extrapolate that, 5%, 5% out of 1 million, okay, it will comes up to 50,000, not 20,000, 50,000. So that is the statistics. And famous people, famous politicians, there are famous actors and actresses, famous doctors, architects, engineers, accountants. It transcends all professions. It transcends all race. It transcends all religion. Mental illness can strike anyone irrespective of age, gender, religion, profession, ethnicity, etc., etc. So education is very important in terms of getting the people who actually had early signs or manifestation of mental health issues to seek early treatment, because earlier the treatment is, the better it is. And like what I mentioned earlier, preventive is as important. We don't have to wait for the person to manifest itself with some form of mental illness before they seek treatment. Actually, we have to go in terms of creating a mentally resilient society, like in terms of engaging in positive activities, in active activities, like for example, in having regular exercises. Exercise is one form of promoting mental resilience, and involving in community work is also one form of promoting mental resilience, having sort of a good social network activities, things like that, so on and so forth. Yeah. So helping to create a mentally healthy, resilient society is very important. Having adequate sleep, and do not sort of everyone have got areas of work or stresses, so to speak. Yeah. And to me personally, I have to also share that at one stage, I manifested in some early signs of mental health issues. These early signs are related to me by my close friends. They told me, not just one, 3 or 4 persons told me. They say, by the way, Leslie, do you realize that lately, very often, when we are with you, your mind has drifted off somewhere? And when 3 or 4 persons told me, 3 or 4 close friends of mine told me this, I reevaluate myself. Oh yes, I am right at the cliff. So what I have told you earlier, that failure is not an option. We work, my wife and myself, we work 7 days a week. We work 12, 14 hours a day. And where it needs to be, there was one instance where we work in order to close a transaction. And working the whole day, the normal hours of from like 8 to 6 o'clock, and then the appointment come to close the transaction. There was this big Dutch guy. I remember that case very well. He is from Macro, the hyper supermarket, coming in to buy a big piece of land and bringing his lawyers to Penang. So there we met him, we negotiated. He banged tables, walking out. I stay my cool. Finally, the deal was closed at about 5 o'clock in the morning. The negotiation goes on from as early as around about 7 o'clock in the afternoon earlier, through midnight, and closed at 5 o'clock. And the agreement was signed then and there. By the time we finished it, it was about 6:30. I fetched them back to the hotel. I say we can have our breakfast. So that is something that we look back. So what I have mentioned earlier, that failure is not an option. That means, because I recognize that we come from a poor family, in order to change our fortune, like I've always said, poor people have a chance to become rich to make it in life. And at the same time, the world is very fair. Rich people may also have a chance to become poor if they do the wrong things. So the world is always fair. It gives everybody a fair chance. So although I recognize that working long hours, working hard when people are sleeping, all that, and when my friends related to me that when they are with me, my mind is drifting away, I took stock. My mind is at the cliff because my mind went on multitasking. When I'm with my friends, I think about business issues, other business issues. Although my physical body is with them, my mind is drifted to address a lot of other issues. And when that was told to me, I took stock. I told myself, I cannot continue to work this way, because if I continue to work this way, one day I will suffer mental illness. Yeah. And so from that time onwards, I decided that I need to do exercise. I need to cut off at a certain hours, and I need to do exercise. And one of the exercise that I took upon that time is swimming, scuba diving. So where the mind is totally off from work, and we give our mind a break. So, and the other thing is that I recognize that I have to do it this way because my mother is dependent upon me. My siblings are dependent upon me. I have already got 2 siblings that are mentally challenged. I cannot become the third one. Genetically, I have the genes. And if I subject myself to such stress of work, it could precipitate me into another mental case. So I took stock of it. I told myself, I can't. I have to regulate myself, took charge, yeah, and ensure that I do not sort of overwork my mind and my body. So that is history, so to speak. And since then, I have regimented myself that in spite of whatever things that I'm doing, health comes first. Of course, mental health comes first, then physical health comes second, then money is third. So that as far as we have enough to pull through the day, it's good enough, right?
We need time for relaxation, mental health, and self-care. And there's also this acronym of talk that I've seen in your social media from D-Home. So T stands for tell someone you trust about the problem. A is to ask for help. L is to listen without being judgmental. N is to know where to seek help. So that's a very interesting acronym of talk. Thank you so much for that. So tomorrow is International Migrants Day. What is your message to migrants all over the world?
All right, Viva. Being the son of a migrant myself, one thing is migrants all over the world, they leave their country into a new country. They have encountered a lot of difficulties. It's not easy actually to migrate from one own country where you are very comfortable with, where you know everything around, into a new country. There are lots of challenges. So one thing, they have to persevere against whatever difficulties that they may encounter, strive to work hard, be responsible, be good residents in the country that you are staying, or if you are already citizens in that country, be good citizens to that country, and be trustworthy, be responsible. And certainly, like what I've said, the world is very fair. If you do the right things, then ultimately you will gain the fruits of whatever things that you put in. And I have to salute the migrants because it's not easy to leave your home country. The very fact that you are adventurous means that you are already smart enough to seek newer and better pastures in order to change your life. So with that, I think you did the right move, and coupled with these things, and I wish you will find a successful life in whichever countries that you have migrated to. Yeah. And so far, in terms of what I have seen, the migrants people, or like, for example, I saw the migrants in Australia.
They are very successful people because they have gone through difficulties. They have gone through the sufferings from where they were before. So when they go to the new country, they work very hard and they are very responsible and they show their trust. They acquire and their business sort of grow and they become successful. So far, I wish them all the best, yeah, in terms of to all the migrants, tomorrow being World Migrant Day, yeah.
Thank you, Dato Seri Leslie Lee. So this question, what are your advice and sharing that you would like to inform our audiences around the world, especially the youngsters, youths, in leading their lives? What is your perspective of life? In short, what is your inspiring message to the world?
Well, I would say that, like what I have mentioned earlier, be happy with what is enough. Yeah. Be contented. Don't chase for the sky. Yeah. We are all born to die. As what Steve Jobs said, death is a destiny everybody shared. So far, nobody has ever escaped it. So navigate, plot your chart well, navigate it well, monitor which part of the journey that you are in, adjust if necessary. And these are the things in which I've learned during my navigational days before we set sail, we leave, we have a destination. So have a destination in mind. So we have to prepare all the charts. We have to prepare, all the necessary stuff. Like in our case, we have to check the compass. We have to check the gyro compass. We have to check the all sorts of navigational equipment to ensure that they are all functioning. And in the course of our journey, we will monitor and see, are we in line? So likewise to all the youth, we have a destination in mind, know what you want to be. And what I have to say is that money is not everything, yeah, because health is more important than money. For peace is also more important than money. Joy, happiness, love, goodness, gentleness, kindness, all these far outweigh money. But we have to accept that money is a means to an end, but not an end by itself. Where you are poor, like what we have gone through, if without money, we suffer. But at the end of the day, don't die for money. So poverty to me is a blessing in disguise for me to realize, and like what I've shared earlier, a relative that I have come across who achieved success at the expense of his short life. I can't blame him because he's not educated. He started work at the age of 4, so he doesn't understand what he must do as a diabetic person. So ultimately, he suffered a heart attack and he passed away very early during the successful part of his life. So the defining moments in life, is something that personally I learned when I was navigating in the oceans. I look at the universe. The world is so beautiful, it's so precise. And to me, that's when I learned and I question myself, where do I come from? What am I supposed to do when I'm here? Where am I going when I'm not here? So I have found the answers to that, to the questions I had in marveling at the beautiful universe, that the world is so precise and we on planet Earth is just a tiny, tiny dot in the whole universe setup. So I do personally strongly believe that after our life here, there is an afterlife. And being a Christian myself, there's eternal life thereafter. So that eternal life is far more important than our life over here. And how am I going to lead my life? Because we are born to die. So that is the dash. And so this dash to me is to be a dash of no regrets in my life, in my journey towards my destination. I would like to lead a meaningful, satisfying, fulfilling, happy, and healthy life. A life that is useful and beneficial to others. So of course, I will have to take care of my health. And this is where what I've shared earlier. I have to ensure that I do regular exercise every day so that I will be able, at the age of 70, my target is to be able to reach a healthy life of 100, healthily, physically, mentally, not to be bedridden. And so that my physical healthy body and my good, stable mental mind will be useful and supportive to others. So that is what I have planned for my life, that my life is to be meaningful, satisfying, fulfilling, happy, and healthy, a life that is useful to others. Vivian, I hope I've shared.
Thank you so much, Dato Seri Leslie Lee, for honoring us with your presence, words of wisdom, and inspiring the world with your story. In honor of international recognition for your virtue in persistently serving and inspiring humanity with your noble deeds, World Humanitarian Drive would like to award you, Dato Seri Leslie Lee, with an Inspiring Humanitarian Award.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And perhaps just something that just sort of crossed my mind, I mentioned to you about sharing about the marriage life. And perhaps just to interject that I'm so fortunate and so blessed that I have been married for 45 years. And in our marriage of 45 years, we have never quarreled. We have never argued. Yeah. And we have, it's such a blissful marriage. Yeah. And the saying to the youngsters is always, you know, look for the right partner. But I would have to say also, be the right partner. So it takes two hands to clap. Yeah. And choosing the right partner and being the right partner is very important because it is a life journey that two will travel along. You will share the same dreams so that you will navigate in the same direction, not opposing each other, but in synchronization, in harmony together. So I wish every couple a happy marriage and be understanding, supportive, empathetic partner to each other, right? So thank you, Viva, for having me to be able to share this. And I would like to take this opportunity once again to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to people all over the world. And of course, to you, Viva, and to your colleague as well, Wilson, yeah.
Thank you so much, Dato Seri Leslie Lee, and congratulations on your Inspiring Humanitarian Award. And we would like to share a quotation by our guest. Could you see it, Dato Seri Leslie Lee?
Yes, yes.
Yes,
Be
this
light
is
in someone else's tunnel of darkness, despair, and hopelessness. It will bring you tremendous peace, joy, happiness, and satisfaction. Reach out and make a difference in other people's lives. Yeah, this is what I subscribe to. Yeah, thank you, Viva.
Thank you so much for inspiring us. Thank you for sharing your story and making a difference in our lives. So we hope you enjoyed today's discussion with Dato Seri Leslie Lee, that it motivated you to take better care of your mental health and find ways to uplift other people's lives. We are living in dark times. We have to be the light. This year, WHD has given you 46 episodes of Inspiring Millions Show and several online events. So feel free to watch the replays and get inspired. Let's channel the admirable traits we see from our guests and apply them to ourselves. Let us find the best within ourselves and share it with the world. The world needs us to awaken to our greatness, to not cower in challenges, but to courageously face them and persevere in living our best lives. You have the right to live the life the way you choose. It is also your right to say no, to refuse to be an experiment. So let's be courageous in speaking our truth. Remember that fear divides, love unites us all. Thank you to all those who supported us this year, and we look forward to bringing you brand new episodes of Inspiring Millions Show next year. While World Humanitarian Drive followers and social media are constantly growing in number, so we thank our virtual audience and our loyal followers. So we would like to acknowledge those who have watched every episode. So Win, Happy, and Tongi, and to you for watching this. Here on Inspiring Millions Show, we present you with brilliant people from around the world. So feel free to connect with them on social media, and together, let's make a difference in the world. We definitely all need inspiration, especially in these times. Listening to people's stories enrich our lives. Since this episode is about mental health and to give you more inspiration for the new year, I would like to share Survivor's Manifesto with you. I survive, strive, and thrive despite life's challenges. I stay strong and hold on even when I want to quit. I keep pushing, keep dreaming, keep my passion burning, even in the face of opposition. I respect myself at all times. I stay alert and focused on my goals. I learn from every experience life teaches me and get better every day. I survive and adapt to changes. I swim and stay afloat, even in the face of panic. I keep a cool head and flow with the changing times. I survive heartbreaks, separations, disappointments, pain, and loss. I love and cherish life. I build relationships and have a support network. I connect with people of all ages, walks, and fields of life. I believe every life stage has lessons to teach. I can lean on others and they can lean on me. We survive, we are survivors. If today's discussion inspired you, please like it, share it, send us a comment. Do share with us your takeaways from today. Follow us on our social media accounts. Click subscribe on our YouTube channel, WHD Media. Visit our WHD website, www.whd.org.uk for more inspiring events. Everyone, stay safe and healthy. These are times we should strengthen our bodies, minds, emotions, and our faith. Please remember to have compassion. Be kind to yourself, others, and our planet. To our frontliners, we salute you. We thank you for your hard work, sacrifices, and dedication to humanity. Love and virtual hug to you all. WHD would like to greet all those celebrating their birthdays and those celebrating their special milestones this week. Happy celebrations. Have a wonderful weekend on behalf of WHD team, especially those working behind the scenes. WHD Chairman Dr. Abdul Basit Saeed, WHD Director of Global Operations, Ms. Sarah Wilson, WHD's 12 Honorable Secretary Generals. We thank you, our virtual audience from around the world, for joining us and supporting our show. And that wraps up our last episode of the year. This has been World Humanitarian Drive's Inspiring Millions Show. I'm Viva Andrade O'Flynn. We will be back in 2 weeks. Please join us again on the 7th of January. We will have an interesting discussion with Zubi, rapper, author, podcaster, and coach, as we inspire the world here on Inspiring Millions Show. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Love and light to you all.